everyone. Welcome back to RTS. And what are we going to do today? Well, if you could tell by the look of everything on my desk, we're going to record the story again. Yes, it is day 18 of load. I am 17 for 17. And just yesterday, I did a 2-page. And then I have this harebrained idea that I'm going to do another 2-page today. But I think I can swing it. I think. It's Friday. You know how things go on Friday. So, what was the prompt today? The prompt today that Alice gave us, which this has just been an exceptionally fun load. The prompt was, it's so good that it's so bad, that type of meme. And so she referred us back to a video, I think it was by Rebecca Black was her name, and it was called Friday. And this poor girl did this awful video and song, and it was so bad that it ended up being so good for her because it kind of threw her in the limelight. And so Alice always links what she's talking about. And so I did watch the video, and I thought, this cute little girl, she's got one heck of a voice. The lyrics was terrible, and the video wasn't so good, but, you know, good for her that she took something that was bad and turned it into good. So I was trying to think of what I was going to do, and when I think of something that's so good but so bad, it's food. And so that got me thinking. And so then I was talking to my daughter about this place we visited in Charleston, and then something that happened at the restaurant, and I thought, oh, could this be any more perfect? I just don't know how it happens, but you know, when you focus on the story, when you record the story, everything else just falls into place. It truly does. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe you just focus on the story. All this other stuff is secondary. And you know what I mean by that. Okay, so what am I going to do? Well, I have my photos printed, and I'm so glad I had that stack of photos printed. And so then I thought, okay, I have 4x6 photos. I'm not going to cut them down. And when I think 4x6 photos and a fast page, you know what I'm going to pick out? Yes, Scrapbook Generations. And I went straight to this volume of their sketchbooks that's called The Whole Picture, and I will link it below. And if you're on a spending freeze like me, don't worry. I will also link free sketches that Scrapbook Generations has on the website. Now, I want to say one thing about this Scrapbook Generations and free sketches. When you go on their website, you look like you're putting them into a cart, and it all says 0, so you're not paying a penny. And then you think, oh, it's going to ask for information. No, you can put everything into a cart, and they don't ask for credit card information. So check them out. This whole group of women, the 2 sisters and the 2 daughters, are just absolutely fabulous. And if you ask anybody who deals with these 4 ladies, they'll all tell you the same thing. They have great customer service. They just have great everything. Of course, I could do a whole video just on that, on those ladies. They're awesome. So I knew to go to that whole picture because this sketchbook, this one here, now it's not this thick. This is just, there's several of them, but this has 24 sketches and 24 color examples. And I know if I want to do a fast page, and this is all 4x6, you're not cutting any photo down, and that's what I was dealing with. And it has to be fast, so I have my sketch picked out. I can't show it, you know, but I have it picked out. And basically what I'm going to do is I have, I think, 7 photos. But you see I have 3 horizontal. I'm going to get that in. And I have 3 vertical. And this is going to be a leftover one, but I want to talk about this. So once I get into the photos, I will talk about that. Maybe after I pick my papers, because, you know, it's Friday. Dinner's got to get on the table. I'm under the time clock again, but I'll leave my inspiration piece here because I do want to talk about some photo shots. Okay, so I knew that it was going to have to do with have to do with home and cooking and food and things like that. So I went to one of my paper categories, which is home/kitchen, and I just pulled out a couple, and I looked for a color scheme that had this red and, you know, the greens and the yellows and things like that. And so this one just caught my eye because of this one paper I saw. This one right here. That reminds me of that. So I know that is going to be in there. I haven't really looked at the other ones. And this is by Bo Bunny. It's called Kiss the Cook. And this line was done in 2016. And this is when Bo Bunny was Bo Bunny. And that's all I'll say about that. Because you know how I feel about certain companies that go under a certain umbrella. I think some of these companies were so good on their own, they did not need to be under the American Crafts umbrella, but that is my opinion. However, but if that is the way a company has to survive, then that's wonderful. We're going to embrace that and support American Crafts because then these designs are still there. Even though I will say, and American Crafts knows because I've emailed them many times, keep paper weight the way the companies used to have it, but they don't, okay? Because these papers with Bo Bunny, I'll just say this and I'll get off this tangent, they're made in the USA. Made in the USA. I don't know if American Crafts can say that about all their papers, but that's another story for another day. So let's get rolling. Okay, so I know with my sketch, and I'm looking at it here to the left, I'm really only going to need, well, I'm saying I'm doing a 2-page spread, so you got to keep that in mind. You know, it's like double mint gum. You have to have double the pleasure. You have to have double the papers. And so I'm probably going to need about 3-4 sheets, and I really could use some scraps. I don't have it, so I'm going to have to, and I know I don't have scraps that would play off this collection, so I'm probably going to have to cut into my 12x12s. But that's the beauty of buying a collection, is that you use it, right? So I'm going to just, you know, I do have some couple washies that's laying in a bowl, so maybe I could get them in. But okay, so I need about 4 papers. And yeah, and then I'm going to have to pick some cardstock because I'm not going to use, I didn't get this whole collection. I'm going to have to get some cardstocks pulled. And I will tell you, when I found out the Bo Bunny was being sold, I literally ran. In fact, it was so funny because we were traveling and I had saw the news, and I said to my husband, I said, tomorrow I'm going to such and such place because I'm buying Bo Bunny paper. And that's exactly what I did. I spent about $50 that day on Bo Bunny paper because I just knew that it would change. But like I said, if that's what companies have to do to survive, is stay under the American Crafts umbrella, we will embrace it and support them and not complain. Okay, moving on. So we're going to pick out, here's my inspiration pieces. And I tell you what, when I saw this glass of iced tea, what I wouldn't do for that glass of iced tea right now. But I'll talk about photos and food in just a minute. So let me pick out some papers. And like I said, I don't have any embellishments, so right off the bat, that's going to have to make the cut. It's going to have to make the cut. And I have 2 of them. I won't use that. Now, this would be a good mat, but I'd have to sacrifice that. And I'm just not ready to cut up. I just can't do cutting those up. And I know I want this sheet of paper because this is going to be my main mood and feel. When I see this, it takes me back to that restaurant. And this restaurant was just interesting, but I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So, and also too, the technique prompt with this, it was so good, it was so bad. The technique prompt was to use black. So I know that's going to happen. So, and then the strawberries, that's not working. This was a nice collection. If you want a home/kitchen collection, Kiss the Cook, still get it while you can. And and I'll try to link that to some stores, because there's one store in particular, if you're looking for older collections, that's the place to go, and I'll have it listed below. That would be a nice, see, and I don't have a lot of papers. Yeah. Now that red would kind of play in. There's apples on the back. That red would kind of play in with that a little bit, maybe. Not the right red. But I do like this patchwork. Oh, and the back is a red. So, you know, it'd been nice to have some green, but I'm going to have to sacrifice that because there's not green in this. I will have to go with the teal, and I'll just have to be happy with it. So, this reminds me of that restaurant, and the back is that red. And I think those are the colors I'm going to... See, it didn't take very long. And I'm not going to sacrifice those backgrounds to cut up. No. Cherries, they're cute. The cherries are very cute. But see, now since I have this graphic, you always have to pick which one are you going to go with. And I'm going to go with the signs versus the cherries. But this was just a really nice restaurant to go to. If you ever go to Charleston, it's called Jestine's Kitchen. You need to look into it. Okay, so there's my papers. Wasn't very long because I didn't have a lot of collection. You know, I didn't have a lot of it. And those, I'll put that for embellishments. So that's what I'm working with. And I like that already. These 2 washies, which I looked at the building and that awning, and I just had them in a bowl here. If you saw how much stuff I had laying to my left and to my right, I probably could make 55 albums. Yeah, I have really been pushing myself with load, but I tell you what, it has been fun. And even though at the end of the day you want to say to yourself, oh, I'm tired, I don't want, you just go. you got that frame of mind you would just want to do. So I have my sketch picked out. I'll just flip that over, and I have my photos, and you see it's the same process. This is the 18 days in a row, and I still have the same process. And so for titles, I went literally by what Jestine's Kitchen logo was on there, and it kind of like is a white or a cream. And since this is kind of cream based, this was already in my pile to the left from a previous page, actually yesterday's page. So I'm going with this. And then the black was laying there, and I thought, well, you know what? I could probably use this for the date. So all I did was just move it from one pile to another, honestly. And then again, this was on my desk, and I thought, well, this had that little bit of coral red in there. And then I had some Tim Holtz. I use these, you know, these had to have some travel. It's got the white and the black, so I thought, okay, black is the prompt. We're going to go with that. And then also, too, as I was looking at these, it reminded me of some October afternoon stickers. And so I went ahead and pulled a few of them. And those will be my main things to start with my clusters. Okay, so you know, and I have a couple other things that was just laying here. And honestly, I just moved them from one pile into this pile because that's the way it is when you're working with load. You just go with what you have. And since, you know, the technique prompt was to use black, I already had these from yesterday's page sitting on my desk. So those are there. Plenty of options. And you know, if we're talking about food, you pick out some doilies. Now, on this page, it looks like already I'm going to have cream and white. And ask me if I care. No, I don't. I have just gotten over myself, and I don't care if I mix cream and white because no one else is. It's all about recording the story. Yes. And as I was walking around my room today and thinking about this prompt, I just happened to look at a shelf, and I saw this mason jar punch, and I thought, you know what? Maybe that would be fun, maybe to put my title on top of that, or, you know, maybe put some journaling on top of that. I thought that would be a fun little thing. I have some enamel dots that's here. Like I said, ladies, I'm just pulling things from the left. I'm pulling things from the right, and I'm just going to go to town and start scrapbooking. And I'm going to do a 2-page. That's what I'm going to do. So what I do is when I move things, I put things in pile in the order I'm going to use them. I know that this is going to be first, this is going to be second, so I put them in piles. I know my enamel dots, that's going to be my finishing touch, that's on another pile, and I just put things in piles, and kind of as I use them. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay these papers out and start cutting. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for day 18. Hard to believe. You know, I think I might set a new goal. Maybe I'll try to get 20 done, because my ultimate goal was 15. Well, I'm on day 18, so maybe I'll change my goal to 20. We'll see. You know, the weekend's coming up. You know how weekends can be. So hang in. I will come back with a finished page. Okay? Before I started cutting up my papers and working on my sketch, I wanted to go over a couple things about some photos and food and things like that. So with my sketch, I'm basically going to have three vertical shots here to the left, and I'm going to have 3 horizontal shots here to my right. So, and then I have this extra one. And so what I wanted to say is when you're doesn't matter where you are and you're taking photos and you're kind of thinking about, you know, what layout you may have in mind. I know we all do that. And so when we were across the street, and I wanted to get a whole picture of this Jestine's Kitchen. And of course you see there's a car, there's a light pole, and it just didn't work out well. And so I thought, well, sometimes I'll take a photo of things that we see and things we do. Not that I may not scrapbook it, but so I can remember. But I knew we were going to be going to this restaurant. So sometimes how do I want to say this? It's okay to snap a photo just so that when you go to scrap and you see those photos as a group, it will maybe trigger something, even though you will not scrap that photo. Okay? And so then this is what I wanted to bring forth. You see how I tried to get a picture of this, it didn't work. And I knew that car had gotten that shot. You know, you're trying to cross the street and it's just not going to work, and you got people tugging at you, and you know how it is. So I knew once I got over there, I wanted to get a good shot. And so one way to do that is maybe just tilt your camera to the left or to the right a little bit, and you get a better angle. And it's good to get close-ups. You know, this doesn't really convey how I felt about going to this place, but this does. So you see the difference in perspective? And it's just about thinking, okay, I didn't get a very good shot here, but I can get a different angle this way. And this has a lot more info about this restaurant than just this shot here. But I will take photos of signs, billboards, all type of things, just so that when I scrapbook, it'll jog a memory for me. So, okay, so that was that. So now in this group here, so how would you lay these out if you were going to go, you know, from on the left-hand page? And so since this was the front of the restaurant, this would be your lead-in photo, and I'm hoping in frame. So you'd want that on the far left because that's telling the story, because we read left to right. This is telling the story. Okay, and so then how do you want to do the rest? Again, think about the order in which you got your meal. So this was, you know, the napkin and the drink and, you know, a little bit of appetizer, which I find that amazing. They give you some pickles as an appetizer, and then they had the seasonings, and then they brought the food. And so, of course, you know, some of this was already planned because these have to be, you know, this is then the vertical orientation, and these are the horizontal. And so, when I have these horizontal shots, is that I will put them in weight. So if you look at these three photos, let me move these. Which one of these photos has the most weight? Meaning, which would be the bigger image and it seems heavier, okay? And that would be the chicken. So of course that's going to go on the bottom because that's how it would be. So you could go, this photo is the least amount, this is the bigger, or since these are kind of similar in color, you could break that up. Okay, so don't be afraid to play with your photos to, one, either get them in order of how your visit went, how your meal went, and that's how exactly how I'm going to put them. This was the opening of the restaurant, you know, the entrance. This was the first thing we got, and then of course these were on the table that came after our drinks, and then these were our meals. And so with these, I put in order. These I put by weight. Okay, I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Just something I wanted to say. And you know what? It's one of those things some people get embarrassed by taking food photos or when there's a lot of people around. You know what I say? You do you. If no one else likes it, they can turn their head and look at something else. Can I get an amen? It's all about recording the story. Don't worry about other people. Okay, I'll be back with the finished page. Okay, I'm back with my finished page, and this was a fun page to do. It was fun to go back and live and revisit this restaurant that we visited. And so, okay, let's get to the page. So my mood and feel paper main pattern was this vintage sign. So I used it at the top, and then I did the patchwork and I put it at the bottom, and then of course this red houndstooth and this black and white dot were washi, and then I put on white cardstock and I adhered. Now if you notice on my left and my right page that I have this about 3/4 of an inch border. And the reason why I did that was because once I had this paper and it was spanning the whole page, it was just too much. Your eye needed a place to rest. So I cut, some off the paper, and I even cut some off of this photos here to make that fit. Because, there was some negative space, some dead space in those photos, so I could trim them down a little bit because your eye just needed a place to rest. So I did that on the left and the right. So up here in this title main cluster with this vintage sign paper, what I did was actually I had some left over, and I used my scissors and I cut out these vintage signs, the ones I could that didn't have, that you could see the whole sign. And again, I added my foam tape and I added that to those. And some of them actually fit right over top of the original sign that was in the background. I thought it was a happy accident. And then what I did was just took a circle element, because I had brown on the right, and a pop of yellow, and I added an apple brad and a cherry brad to, again, emphasize my mood and my feel. Now, the title says So Good and So Bad, which was off the prompt today for load that Alice gave us. And yes, the food was so good, but the atmosphere was so bad. And so my daughter and I were talking about that. And I guess because I had it so hyped up in my brain of visiting this place and, eating some southern food, and sign me up. So the food was good. But I don't know if the waiters or the staff was fighting among themselves, or they were fighting with management. I'm not sure, but the atmosphere was very awkward. And the old saying, The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Yeah, you could just tell there was something going on. And then our waiter, he kept trying to crack jokes. Yeah, it just wasn't working. So, but nonetheless, you know, it was still, I would go back and visit. And so down here, I took one of those October afternoons, again, with a circle punch and with a piece of scrap, and I made a little cluster here. And then I do have some journaling here. It's going to be by 3 strips, 3 lines of journaling. And I didn't want to include it, because I don't want to ruin the surprise if you were to ever go visit Jestine's Kitchen, because they have a massive collection of something in their restaurant, and I don't want to spoil that for someone. So that was something that I didn't get in on my journaling, and then I was like, oh, I need to get this. And so I went ahead and I printed it up, but I don't have it on the page because I don't want to ruin the surprise in case you would happen to visit there someday. And remember, I had cut this a teal border strip, and I was going to, and you know what, I cut up this 12x12 sheet and I didn't use any of it. I didn't use any of it, but that's what happens sometimes. And I was going to put this at the bottom of my page to anchor it, but it just is too much. And plus, I wanted this pop of yellow that was shown in this patchwork to bring out some of the yellow in the photos, so I just scrapped that. Now, remember I said I'd left a little bit of border over here because your eye needs a place to rest, because this is so busy and we got this diagonal design going on. And so, of course, you know, I said if you're going to have any overhang, or if you have things that's not going to meet up, let it be on the inside of your 2-page spread. And I think I talked about that in yesterday's video, not sure. So that way, because this is towards your spine and you see it less. But when you do have overhang, you flip your page over, and you use long blade scissors to do this, and you use your cardstock or whatever you're using for your base, and you follow that up along, okay, and you get a better cut that way, rather than going from the front and doing your overhang. Because I can guarantee you, of course, now I'm left-handed. Left-handed people and scissors, not a good marriage, but you kind of tend to get into your design and your paper and your pictures. So always flip it over, use some long blades, and cut your overhang that way. That's a tip I've learned over the years, works for me. And of course, you can see I covered up my braids again with this washi that I'm struggling with all month, but you know what, maybe I'll get to the end of it eventually. But I did get a good grip on it. So you know what I did? I just picked up a piece of scrap paper and attached that, and maybe that'll help me, you know, have better luck using this. It's just such a hard roll to use. And so that was my left page. So on my right page, and you can see where the photos took up the majority of the space. And so this 2-page spread, which, you know, it's hard to do 2 pages during the load event because, you know, you're working on a time crunch. But when you're using this many in this 4x6 format, you know, it helps. You don't have to come up with so much other design. And so over here again, I followed up with the vintage sign pattern up here, the patchwork at the bottom, and my photos. And what did I do? I had 2 little word stickers, and that's it. And so you can see with this mega cluster, what I did was took one of those cut aparts, because I have this same type of graphic up here, and I just matted that. Well, yeah, I guess I did use that turquoise paper. Oh, that makes me feel better. And I layered some doilies underneath of it, and I got that mason jar in. That was in this mason jar punch. I got that in, and I purposely made sure this pattern wasn't very busy, since everything else is. I used an October afternoon sticker. I got this thicker in because on my left I wanted to represent it over here. And then, I don't know if you can see this, but I have a brad that has a woman on it. And that just reminded me, because this is called Jestine's Kitchen, and there's a story behind that. So you can always just go read about that, or when you visit, you can read about it. And then I used a brad that has number 3, because in our party, there's always 3 in our, you know, there's 3 in our family, so there's 3 in our group. So I use the number 3 on a lot of my pages. And with these doilies, you know, they're very thin. Okay. But sometimes when I want more of this bold white, or I want more of a dimension and texture, I'll use 2 or 3, sometimes 4 doilies, and I'll glue them together. Well, sometimes they're stuck together. And I do that to give a little bit more definition. And what else on this page? Oh my goodness. If you're someone who uses 4x6 photos and you don't like to cut them down, I do want to recommend the Scrapbook Generations, the whole picture sketchbook. It's only this thick, okay? This is how thick it is. All of this is all my other sketchbooks. And I'll have the link below for that. And if you're on a spending freeze like me, I'll also link some free sketches to Scrapbook Generations because they're very generous about that. And I think that was it for this page. It went together so well. The only thing I'm going to do is just add my extra journaling with this hidden surprise of Justine's. We were just blown away because I had never read anything about it, and so when you went in, it was like, oh wow, it was interesting. It was fun. So I think that was it. Other than I am 18 for 18. Hard to believe. So if you're interested in the load event, there's one coming up in October, but you do have to be a Scrap Happy member in order to do that. So if you have any questions about that, just leave me a comment and I will gladly answer that, or I will also too refer you to Alice, and she would be more than happy to answer any question when it comes to the load event. So I am 18 for 18. Can I make it 19 tomorrow? You know, it's the weekend. Things are hard. It's hard to scrapbook on the weekend. So I want to thank you for stopping by. Thanks for going along with me on this load journey. I didn't plan for all these, but it's just working out the way. Plus, I'm getting a lot of practice doing videos, so that's always good. Thanks again for commenting and leaving such great comments. I appreciate every single one. I read every single one. So greatly appreciate that. And I think that's all. And except come back to RTS because you never know what we're going to learn. Bye.